Are we facing the most frigid market in history, and can we thaw out in time for a spring push? That seems doubtful, as Wells was once the #1 player in mortgages, and now we see how far they will go to step back from this frozen housing market. Layoffs continue industry-wide as Anywhere and Compass make difficult decisions for their employee body count. Keller Williams makes a bold claim that someone has to sell a damn house, and EXP tries to justify their seeming lull in agent count. Americans simply need more housing, and the Fed stated that they may need to make unpopular decisions to stabilize prices. We may, however, be seeing a ray of sunshine poking through the dark clouds as consumer confidence finally rises and buyer concessions are up. Mortgage rates should be dropping below 6 soon. So snuggle up with some hot chocolate as we explore the headlines on This Week in Real Estate. Yay! Welcome, everybody, to This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name's Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And that is Dan. And both of us are real estate agents that span the globe. I am in Arkansas. Dan is in LA. So depending on which direction you go, we're all the way around the globe. And we're broadcasting on a new system today. So bear with us a little bit. We may run into a little bit of technical difficulties, but I was trying to get a system that would allow us to broadcast on Instagram at the same time. And while this system would, the cropping is terrible. So I've got to figure it out. Right now we're on Restream. Normally we use StreamYard. So this is going to be the first day on a new system. If it works well, I think we'll keep it, but we'll kind of have to see what it looks like. But anyway, Dan, we've got a whole lot of real estate stuff to talk about. Before we get into all these headlines, would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs, we were trolling real estate agents in a large group of real estate agents, and we just had a vibe. We just trolled in a similar way. So I was like, you know what? I had an idea for a show called The Bearded Man of Real Estate at the time. I was like, Ray, let's start a show, dude. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What was that, Dan?
He has never, not once, had honey straight from the hive. Not once.
Actually, my grandfather had bees. So you know, Arkansas is very agri forward. My grandfather had a beehive years ago. So to this day, I want a beehive. There's like a program locally that you can get a beehive for free, and you have to give half of your honey to this group for 2 years, and they help you set it up. They help you care for the bees. They teach you how to care for the bees, and then after 2 years, you're done. You're out of the program. So we actually want to do this. It's like they're trying to really propagate the bee population and at the same time teach people about it and get more honey. They also sell the honey to support their little not-for-profit. So
I mean,
my grandmother used to can honey and she would on purpose leave a piece of honeycomb in there. Yeah, and inevitably there was a little bee left in there.
A little bit of bee in there.
Yeah, a little bit of bee.
Bees are the literal hub of our planet, so we need more and more bees out there. But it's true. I'm just trying to find interesting facts about Ray every week, and we get to learn a little bit about the man. But I obviously noticed he's a beautifully bearded man, but I also noticed that he loves giving value up front, not only to clients, but just to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah, and one of the ways we believe in being more is to know what in the heck is going on. So we want to create one place for about an hour and a half. You can go listen to the latest real estate news stories, know what's happening in real estate, know what's happening in the industry so that you can make better financial decisions for yourself. And if you're in the real estate profession, also for your clients. So thank you guys for checking us out. Throughout the show today, I'll be featuring a couple of new toys, like we have a chat overlay. Get ready for this, Dan. Look at that chat overlay. It says new comments will display here, but it doesn't display old comments, I guess. So we have a couple of old comments. They're going to be down here. But
it's kind of pointless.
No, right. By the time you see the comment, want to display it, you just have to click on it, I guess. So Jack Adridge, he's in first today. He says he's beat Matt LaMarche. Olivier listening to us on Clubhouse and YouTube. He beat LaMarche too. So everybody's beating LaMarche today. And then Sherry. Hi, she's living in St. Louis, Missouri. She joins us from YouTube. Blake Thompson, he says he's trying to catch up. He just started his beard on Sunday.
Yeah,
but you got to post a pic. I want to see what this. If is it noticeable by you have thickness going on if that's already noticeable by then.
3 or 4 days. I mean, I've been working on this since 2006. So,
well. I like how you're just kind of brushing your beard with your hand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's dive into these headlines because up first, we might have some surprising news. Some surprising news? No,
Surprising, yeah.
some surprising news for one's Wells Fargo. So once the number one player in mortgages, they're stepping back from the housing market. What?
Which,
Right. Wells Fargo is stepping back from the housing market.
which I don't know if that's actually true. When you read the article, it's not 100% true, but when we put this out to the our contributors group, everyone was like, okay, cool, that's fine. I'm good with that. We're fine with it. Yeah.
So instead of its previous goal of reaching as many Americans as possible, the company will now focus on just a few Americans. No, I edited that. Sorry.
Just like 7 or 8.
Yeah. The company will now focus on home loans for existing bank and wealth management customers and borrowers in minority communities. That's interesting. Dual factors of lending market that has collapsed since the Federal Reserve began raising rates last year, and questions about the long-term profitability of the business led to the decision, said consumer lending chief Kleber Santos. Yeah. Regulators have heightened oversight of the mortgage lending in the past decade. Let's see, scrutiny after 2016 with the fake account scandal. Y'all might remember that.
Mm-hmm. And then the subsequent rebrand. Remember the rebrand?
Yeah, the rebrand. Santos said in a phone interview with CNBC, "We are acutely aware of Wells Fargo's history since 2016 and the work we need to do to restore public confidence. As part of the review, we determined that our home lending business was too large, both in terms of overall size and its scope." Well, that's interesting. So what the article goes on to say, it does sound real incendiary. Wells Fargo pulling back. And that's where our thumbnail came from, by the way. I hope you guys had a chance. I'll have to figure out how to add the thumbnail in a way that is not a background. It's got to be an overlay.
I always share it, by the way. If you guys don't, and we don't have our names up there either.
Well, that's also a setting you turn on and off. We'll have to get some overlays for the name set. There's our thumbnail. It is from the movie Fargo. It's like a knit sweater, and obviously there's a guy on the ground on the ice bleeding out, and then me and Dan are. You said we're the hitman, right? I haven't seen Fargo. We chose it because of Wells Fargo. That's why we chose the.
Yeah, a guy gets in some trouble.
Fargo.
I haven't seen Fargo. I know. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It's really good. It's rad. It set the tone for a bunch of new styles of movies.
Okay,
it's really good.
Shawnee says I got to watch it, so I got to watch it.
Yeah, it's a dude gets in trouble and hires some hitmen, essentially.
Interesting. Yeah, hey, Ashley and Diane are here, and Jack are here. They're all in Clubhouse, and Ron Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno, but Jack and Diane. Yeah, I always share. By the way, you guys can't see it, but DLudwigrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. If you follow me on Instagram, I always share it in my stories, so you guys can see the. Before we go live, you get a sneak peek of the thumbnail every week.
Okay, so one of the big changes from Wells Fargo, they used to be one of the number one, I guess you could say, investors. They were buying the loans that other third parties were servicing. They're not doing that as much anymore. They actually shuttered. It's called correspondent business. And that buys the loans made of third-party lenders, significantly shrinking its mortgage servicing portfolio. So I think the biggest way that I could see this impacts real estate agents is a lot of times there'll be a mortgage broker that says, well, let me check with a different lender and see what kind of, or different investor and see what kind of deal I could get your client. Right. And so they shop those deals. Wells Fargo is generally pretty good in our area. So that's going to have some impact. There's going to be fewer of those investors, those third-party buyers for those guys to choose from. Let's see. They also talk about more layoffs altogether. The shift in the results in a fresh round of layoffs for the bank's mortgage operations, executives acknowledge, but they declined to quantify how many jobs will be lost. Thousands of mortgage workers were terminated or voluntarily left the company last year as business declined. And a big reason why the business declined last year was the refi activity was just stopped as rates started increasing this year compared to last year.
Yeah, and did we add it to the show? The refis are up. Did we add that? We can just throw that in.
Yeah, Dan. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Huh.
Okay, so there's a slight delay. When I hit the button, it's not as fast. It's not as snappy as StreamYard. And so I
I
hit the
was like,
button and nothing happened. So I hit the button again. So nothing happened. So I had like 3 fake starts there. My bad.
I was waiting like because I like to pose before it goes into it because it's kind of a cool thing, and I just sat there like
Yeah.
a dill hole, a bung hole.
So no, that was a timely reference, Dan. Mortgage refi demand surges as homeowners take advantage of lower interest rates. How much is the lower interest rate, Dan?
Well, I mean, it's still 6-something.
Yeah, 6.58 all the
Yeah.
way down to 6.42.
Sure, that's a big enough jump, though.
As a result, total mortgage application volume rose just 1.2% for the week compared to the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. Joel Kahn, he's a Mortgage Bankers Association economist. He said mortgage rates declined last week as markets reacted to data showing weakened economy and slowing wage growth. All loan types in the survey saw a decline in rates. Mortgage applications to purchase a home, they fell 1% for the week and were 44% lower than 1 week a year ago. Same week a year ago. It was the lowest reading since 2014. Buyers today are not contending with higher interest rates. Buyers today are not only contending with higher interest rates, but falling supply. They're also seeing home prices come down and maybe waiting to see how low they will go. And we talked about that a little bit. The home prices are still going up. They are still going up compared to last year so far. We still have a net gain, as we covered last week. However, they're just not going up as rapidly. So every day that they wait, currently it's still going up.
I expect so. I've been doing a lot of research for a video that I'm shooting for my page, that I'm recording for my page. And we haven't seen. We're still waiting on fourth quarter numbers. We haven't seen those, have we?
No,
because I
usually a couple months late.
I expect a dip, and then what I've read as well is that we're going to see a negative 0.5% dip over the next 12 months. So essentially 6% for the year. So over the course of the year will be 6%. Then, as you track the months as you go through the year, and I would agree with that. I mean, that's more of a settling, not a sharp correction, or obviously not a crash.
Right. What are y'all seeing there locally? Are you seeing major changes in the market so far, or is it still kind of slow?
It's just slow. The interest rates are not low enough for like a big spark to come back or anything. But it's pretty slow. It's very grindy at the moment. Very, very grindy. Lots of calls, lots of lead generation, lots of follow-up, a lot of that stuff to get business nowadays.
Christina M. Smallhorn joining the show. She said, "Hello, fellas," on Facebook, and then she said, "Oh, I see my face in the background on
YouTube. There.
There you go. See, yeah, we have a cool background, and there you are." Jack Adderidge asked a question like, "Where's the adjustment?" Just learning about demand as new listings come in, as we see a trickle of new inventory.
Yeah, it would take a lot more than a trickle of inventory to see more of an adjustment.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to see some, and I think we went through a couple of months where buyers kind of seasonally slowed down, and it afforded some of our clients some great deals as we were able to negotiate for them. But Christina Smallhorn said she's seeing more open houses and higher priced homes staying on the market, so she is starting to see the shift a little bit. Olivier says there is business to be had, but it's much different than the last few years. Inventory lowered about 10% with expired on January 1st. Yeah. That was a big day if you look at expireds. A lot of people just put their contracts through the end of the year. So, okay. So since we're talking about it, we might as well get into this article that talks about exactly what sellers are seeing in this quote unquote new housing market. Oh, that one
looks good on here. It looks better than on StreamYard.
It does look better, but there's still that delay. I got to get used to that delay and actually hit the button
It looks
before.
better though.
Yeah.
Couple comments came in before we do the next one, but Jason
go ahead.
Bates, the enthusiasm just isn't there, but translate to all areas of the economy. Yeah. And we have a story coming up, but rates where they are, I don't think it sparks any sort of like, I have to go get it now. So, but that allows more inventory to trickle on the market, kind of like Jack said.
Christina says cheap houses still fly off the market. By cheap, do you mean underpriced, or do you mean homes that are in the bottom 1/3 of the market? Just in general.
Yeah, what does she mean? Does she mean just priced correctly? Like if it's a $500,000 market and I listed at 475, it's going to fly off? Or do you mean legit bottom third? There you go.
She probably means most affordable, right, Christina?
Yeah. Most affordable, like tiny homes. We didn't have to mention the magic word.
We didn't. She's already here. Okay, so as housing markets cool, we've already done the transition for this, right? Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
As housing markets cool, buyers see a huge increase in concessions. Redfin Deputy Chief Economist Taylor Marr joined Yahoo Finance Live to break in a new report that found some sellers are making concessions to buyers amid the cooling housing market. And then they had this video transcript. I'm not going to show you the video because I don't want to get takedown notices. But basically, the guy is like, really appreciate being here. Okay, I'm not going to read that part. What we see in Redfin data is 42% of recent offers had concessions. So 42% of recent offers had concessions where the seller gave money back to the buyer in some form.
Yeah.
So it could be closing costs. That could be surveys, that could be the 3-2-1 loans, that
repairs.
Repairs. Let's see, and that's up about 30% or less historically. So it's a high on record, and we see it's this really increase. It doesn't make sense when I try to read a video transcript. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sense of it.
But it makes sense, right? It makes sense after not having buyers had to do anything. They had to give up their souls to get into a house pretty much. And now the things have totally tilted. So if there's any questions out there about the market shifting or having shift or being different than a year ago, remember, we started talking about this in March and April of last year, but everyone was so behind. Everyone was so delayed. It seemed like months and months. Like, when are they going to say the market has changed? But if there's any doubt about it now, the market has totally shifted. And this article explains it. Buyers are actually, and it's still not a buyer's market. Don't be confused. It's not a buyer's market, but buyers are getting some more concessions, which is a great thing in my opinion.
And he says it's up from about 30%. Oh, okay. I already read that. Concessions can amount to 5,000 to 10,000 on average.
That's great. That's a great number. Yeah. That is a fantastic number.
Let me see if there was one other thing that he mentioned that I wanted.
Yeah, for me, as long as the price, is agreeable, they priced it right, they didn't overprice it, and the buyer's giving that price, and kind of both sides are on the same page. Right now, hey, there's Lamar's. Right now, concessions are pretty easy to get on the buy side.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. I wanted to get your thoughts on this because Taylor Marr, he's the Redfin guy. He said, so our outlook for 2023 is that home prices will fall about 4% relative to the previous year. That will certainly be sharper in some metros. In Seattle, San Francisco, home values have already fallen more than 10%. And there have been some homes in some segments of the market where values have fallen 20 to 25%.
Yeah, and that's where the Crash Bros will take a video or take that little stat and make a huge video about it. The market is crashing.
Some homes in some markets, with some situations, it's just, it's like what? It's too anecdotal. That's not really data.
Well, there's also some markets that have crazy ebbs and flows of inventory. As I was doing research, when I started doing specific markets, not just national, and what was it? It was Reno. Reno had crazy spikes and crazy dips where you could just wait and go, okay, it's at the bottom right now. They only have 300 listings. And then 2 months later, they have 1,000. You're like, crazy spike in inventory. The market is crashing. We can't sustain this. But then a month later, it's back down at 400 again.
Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by our new.
We can't start over, but
let me put that on there.
I agree. You need to be on time, you lazy bum.
Christina Smallhorn said the housing crash bros have been pretty quiet the last 2 weeks. I'm sure.
Well, they're cherry picking their stories. They're trying to find stuff in there because for a long time, that 2-year span, 2.5-year span after the Rona, it was, leave it up, see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what it looks like when a check comes.
There was plenty of articles cherry pick from, plenty. I mean, you can make plenty, but right now there's obviously not as much. You have to cherry pick from, interest rates go down 0.12% and refinance rates are up.
So I've got somebody say something. We're testing this research. We're supposed to see what it looks like when a new comment comes in that's displayed there. I have no idea what it's going to look like.
Well, it'll pop up. Then I think it'll stay there.
Talking doesn't show me. No, you have to type it, Jack. Talking doesn't.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Testing 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Say anything. That's a great.
Say anything.
Anything.
I'm saying something. She says. All right, so that looks pretty good. I like how that displays, but it is only for live comments. So the problem is if somebody makes a comment, the only way to display is to click on it, and it doesn't necessarily go into this box unless it's totally live. So interesting. Not sure how much. Yeah, not sure how much we'll use that, but maybe we'll have a comment. Like once we're kind of done with an article, we throw up the little comment thing so people can see those comments as they come in.
Yeah, and then you don't have to.
Dangerous. It's also dangerous given our propensity to be couch ganged.
Hey guys, can I throw a little observation out there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
So I mean, it's always when we compare, housing increases or housing decreases, we're talking about, markets that include anything from, Beverly Hills to a new development in the middle of a rural suburb someplace. So that's one thing. But the bigger thing is that, what we're basing these declines off of is just this cataclysmic migration that we had over the last 3 years that
from California.
Just, whether people left the cities, whether people left some states, Massachusetts just put a rich guy's tax in place and everybody's talking about leaving here now that's worth big money. But people bought bigger houses because they needed education space and office space. So it's hard to, it's hard to remember the old market. I wish we could be comparing everything to, beginning of 2019, because then I think we'd find that we're more in line with sort of the way things are. So just sort of a 10,000 foot up view down on things. This went up, and I'll never forget we interviewed 1,000 people, and these are the stats that we came up with.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so hard to put your head around these numbers. And back to my new listing, it's $650,000. It's in Marblehead. I've got 20 showings set up so far this week, and I have no doubt that it'll go over asking. So that's how I'm seeing what demand is out there as we start to see the new inventory come on. So thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Good points, Jack. And I've got the clubhouse. I've got the clubhouse room now being displayed on the stream. So now people can see Clubhouse. Really cool, and you remember the problem we were having with StreamYard is that we could hear it. I couldn't turn it off and display it. So with this system, I can. Now I can't show an article at the same time. But now people watching us on YouTube are coming to Clubhouse to see their faces on. Thanks, guys.
Hey, whatever works. But so I just looked it up, by the way, a funny little stat to go along with what Jack was saying there. When they interview 1,000 or maybe 2,000 people, the stat that I just looked up is what percentage of U.S. population owns a home. It's 65%. So that's a roughly 320 million people, 65%. I mean, that's
interesting.
190-ish million people, 200 million people. I mean, so
well, what percentage of those people do you think will be confident about where we're headed now? It needs just a delay. I got to hit that way earlier than I normally do. Okay.
Real quick, sorry. I want to do this before we get into the articles. I always like to do this, but Jason, yes, if rates stay in the mid fives, then we might see a soft landing. And I totally agree with that. Same with all the research I've been doing lately and all the articles I've been reading. And my prediction is mid fives. So that would be awesome. But then Howard and Christina, yes, we've changed platforms. We are on, what is it called? Restream.io.
Restream.io. It's just for today. We're testing it out. I got the 7-day free thing. We're going to see how we like it. It's a little more expensive.
Yeah. And
does some other stuff.
And then Malarsh, yes, you're out there bettering the Association of Georgia. I appreciate that. And you have extra time now. Your entire state is shut down because you guys have won back-to-back national championships. So you don't have anything to do. Everything. I was watching a video on it. Everyone's setting things on fire and destroying your own cities, which is always cool. I thought that was only an LA thing.
No, that was BLM. All right. So consumer confidence finally rises thanks to falling home prices. Mortgage rates are still twice what they were a year ago, but home prices have been falling since June, and that's finally making consumers feel better about what has been overheated, highly competitive housing market.
Which I remember the article said that on the show. I believe we've said that on the show.
Last week didn't we say that home prices are weakening? Home price gains are weakening?
Yeah.
This article says
they weakened sharply. Remember, weakened sharply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this says home prices have been falling since June. So what they're actually saying is home price gains have been slowing since June. The amount higher your home is than it was last year is now less high than it was in June. So I guess you could call that a falling price, but it's kind of written in a way that makes you think now homes are worth less than they were last year. Okay. The share of respondents saying now is a good time to buy was still low at just 21%, but it was up from 16% in October. The share now saying it's a bad time has decreased. On selling, however, I mean, you'd think that would have an inverse relationship.
Yeah,
on selling,
less
however,
people saying it's a bad time.
Yeah, sentiment continued to drop about selling. The share of respondents saying now is a good time to sell dropped to 51% from 54%, while the share saying now is a bad time to sell increased. Well, okay. Prices in November. The most recent measures were 2.5% lower than the spring 2022 peak, according to CoreLogic. They were still 8% higher year over year. See, that's what I'm saying. This is from Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae's chief senior president and chief economist. He says, as we enter 2023, we expect affordability to remain the top challenge for potential home buyers, as even small declines in rates and home prices from the perspective of the buyer may not produce a significant purchasing power.
They've just been too small. Yeah.
At the same time, existing homeowners may continue to wait to list their properties since they've already locked in lower mortgage rates, creating minimal incentive to sell and buy again until rates are more favorable. So it's just, I mean, it's the cycle of housing, right? You're going to wait. People are going to wait until homes are more favorable or home prices are going to drop a little bit. And then there's going to be a mad rush, or maybe rates go down a little bit. Now there's going to be a mad rush. Now what was a $200,000 property, you have to pay $225,000 again for, because there's so many buyers that want to buy it because of limited inventory.
Its inventory is the biggest challenge. I don't think it is affordability, obviously, but that's a part or parcel of the bigger problem, which is inventory.
Yeah. Wow. That was a very loud vibration.
Oh, sorry. That's my phone. Let me turn it off.
It like rocked my ears.
Well, my microphone does sit against my desk right down here. So
yeah, I can hear everything. So Christina Smallhorn said pent up demand is going to be wild. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. There's still a lot of people that want to move and a lot of people that want to buy. So what are the solutions for it? And not only that, you have a government that is making it unnecessarily or necessarily difficult to be in the housing market on either side. Powell says the Fed might have to make unpopular decisions to stabilize prices. What does that mean, unpopular decisions?
I don't think this is so frustrating, because they've been making unpopular decisions 5, 6, 7 times this year already. Like, it's working. You're doing the thing. It's chilled out the market. We're good. Now help us get more inventory on the market, and we're good. We're golden. You can go golf or eat crepes with your friends in Paris or whatever you do. I don't know what Powell does.
It's interesting. And what he says he's after is price stability, but he's the one that shocked the economy and made it increasingly unstable previously. He said, quote, price stability is the bedrock of a healthy economy and provides the public with immeasurable benefits over time. But restoring price stability when inflation is high, can require measures that are not popular in the short term as we raise interest rates to slow the economy. The absence of direct political control over our decision allows us to take the necessary measures without considering short-term political factors. So saying it's not political that we're doing this.
Really? Is that?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like walking down the street and punching a stranger in the shoulder as hard as you can, and they're going, "No, I didn't do that. I had nothing to do with that. The effect that you're feeling on your arm right now, I didn't do that." And the dude's like, "I saw you do it."
While criticism of the Fed actions by elected leaders is often done in quieter tones, the Powell Fed has faced vocal opposition from both sides. Former President Donald Trump ripped the central bank. Powell repeatedly said that political factors have not weighed on actions. In another part of today's speech, he addressed calls from some lawmakers for the Fed to use its regulatory powers to address climate change. He said, quote, "We're going to stick to our knitting and not wander off to pursue perceived social benefits that are not tightly linked to our statutory goals and authorities." So yeah, he says it's not political. He's trying to take, sometimes I get like real tinfoil hatty about the stuff. Like, what if
I mean,
they asked him the political question so he could give the apolitical answer?
Right.
And that's,
here's
that's
a
proof. Here's
softball for
proof. Yeah. Here's proof. We're not talking about climate. All right. So that's where the Fed is. We still have issues with affordability. We still have issues with inventory. But there's some economists that are real positive on the outlook with what the Fed is actually doing and how it may lower rates. That may have killed people's ears. I'm really trying. I'm just going to get all those turned down for this one because I think it's louder. All right, Economist, mortgage banks will dip. I'm going to start over. Economist, mortgage rates will dip below 6% soon.
Soon. But that's in stark contrast to what Powell is just saying.
Yeah, he's saying that he's going to have to make some unpopular decisions. Well, even if they raise those lending rates, which kind of influenced Wells Fargo's decision not to lend any money for houses anymore because they could just lend it to other banks and make more money with lower risk.
They're big enough they can pivot.
Right. So even if that happens, this guy is saying that that mortgage rates will likely settle below 6% and experience less volatility this year. That's Nadia Evangelo, senior economist and director of forecasting in the National Association of Realtors. We're not there yet. The 30-year fixed rate is 6.48 this week. That's what it averaged, according to Freddie Mac. Quote, although rates remain more than double a year ago, they will likely stabilize as inflation will continue to slow down in the coming months.
I do worry, though, that if they get down below 6, that there just won't be enough inventory to handle the pent-up demand that Christina mentioned.
And then the prices and stuff are going to go up just like they did previously?
Slower, but they'll still gain, yeah.
Well, she goes on to say, until then, home buyers may be in wait-and-see mode, which we are here in regular home buyers. We're seeing that a little bit. Affordability has been hammered by higher rates in recent months. Evangelo says that qualifying income for home ownership is now near the $100,000 threshold, which means only 32% of all households and 15% of renters can afford to buy a median-priced home. Affordability, still a major issue.
Yeah,
How long have we been talking about affordability? A decade?
I mean, as long as we've been on the show, so at least 5 years.
At minimum 5 years. But housing affordability was something that a lot of people were talking about, but most people didn't believe it because they thought incomes would increase at a higher rate.
Then they haven't. I feel like for me personally, I would say 2016 or 17, kind of, and this is a full guesstimation here, but right around, because I remember when I first started the business, 2011, 2012, there was a lot where someone was approved for 400 grand, and there was a lot of stuff at 350. Like, it was well under their budget, but then things started tightening up where budgets were kind of like, we had to look at their max budget to find a good house. And that was after kind of the settling in 2012 and 13, and 14 was pretty solid. And then 15 and 16, then 16 and 17, it was kind of like, now I have a $500,000 budget, but there's nothing that I want in the 450 range. I have to look at my max budget. So that was kind of, for me personally, in the market I work, where I kind of saw I don't know if you'd call that a shift, but I just remember it happening. As I would set up a search, for 500 grand and get like 100 properties, and a lot of them were well under the budget and comfortable and nice houses, 7s, 8s, 9s out of 10s. And then it just kind of tightened as we got closer to 16 and 17.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. It's going to be faster. I'm going to work on it.
Well, and also, if you look back to, I think I forget the exact place or location or source I found this yesterday, but since I think 1980, home prices are up 482% or something. but our income's up that high? No, not even anywhere near it. They're up about 3% in the last 40 years.
Well, it'll still keep going up. So if you have many people willing to work for less and you don't have much inventory available, then you're still going to have the issue of fewer houses available for those who want to buy. Yeah. Harsh warning on U.S. real estate market issued. America needs more housing. Brian Lewis argues that there is no national market on the, well, that's the show that they're on. This is on CNBC. One expert issued a warning to Americans that the U.S. is suffering from a housing inventory crisis will further damage the market. He says, quote, "Here's the thing about America. We don't have any inventory. Guys, it's tight out there." Real estate broker Brian Lewis said. In New York City, it's tight. In Richmond, Virginia, it's tight. In some areas of Chicago, it's tight. My Los Angeles officers are saying it's tight out there too. The buyers have way more power. Let's be clear. And there are fewer deals being done. He added that although buyers have way more power than sellers, that they still are suffering from meager housing options.
I don't know if it's meager.
The alternative is renting, and that's gone up. How long do you think the inventory crisis is going to last?
Well, I mean, it's been as long. We've been saying we need more inventory the entirety of this show. So 5 years.
Now it's going to be 5 more years?
I don't know. I mean, until something drastic is done, until there's again an incentive for sellers, or maybe a tax break, which we might have predicted something, with our tinfoil hats in an article coming up. But until there's some sort of incentive, because right now, if you look at it, it's like I could sell right now, but I don't really have to, because it's in the middle of the year. My kids aren't changing schools. I'm not going to move right now. I'm going to wait till summer. And B, if I do sell right now, I'm not going to get the price I want, and I'm going to probably have to give up 5 to 10 grand in concessions. I mean, it's what kind of incentive is there? But if there was some sort of incentive, like, all right, well, we're not going to take 25% of your capital gains. We're going to take 10%. Or if you buy a house, we're going to give you another $5,000 credit towards buying that house. I mean, I got 1,000 of these ideas if Powell wants to chat.
Yeah.
It's not Powell though. Who's the head of HUD? Yeltsin? Who would we talk to?
Maybe the king of the world. And Howard says, I think it's a global issue.
Yeah, there you go. When you talk to the king
he
of
said
the world.
In my market, the sellers are sitting on the fence. Still a little low inventory.
Yeah.
So it's a global problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's talk to the king of the world.
We're running out of space. Oh no. This guy goes on to say that I just got off the phone with Greg Lewis, my brother in Richmond, Virginia. He has 3 offers on a property. I've got a property right here in New York that was below the $1.5 million market. We got multiple bids. Below $1.5 million in New York, it's like a really good deal.
That's great.
The thing is, it's going to cost buyers more money.
Yeah, and you walk out to thousands of people walking by your house.
He said it's going to cost the buyers more money to buy the same thing they could have bought a year ago for less. Well, so it all comes down to monthly payment. He says for less, but you would have had to go way, way over last year. I don't really believe that what
they may have been though. Remember in those markets, remember all the stuff I was doing in LA?
Yeah.
I mean, there was times we were going over 800 grand to get into a house.
So how do we solve the inventory crisis? I get to hang out with Christina on Sunday on her YouTube, and we talked about malls. You remember talking about the mall thing? Hopefully she's still here. We talked about malls being sitting around the country and those being possible options for somehow someone to turn them into, real beautiful multifamily type scenarios. There's an article out that kind of is saying the same thing, but instead of malls, they're actually talking about small businesses. Timing on that one was pretty great. Okay. So the article, well, the interview, yeah, it's like a 3-second or 2-second delay. U.S. real estate has monumental opportunity to solve a housing crisis in 2023. Joel Marcus says, he's an expert. He says that there's 996 million square feet of office space. This sits on a monumental opportunity, I think, for this country to take stock of older office buildings. Marcus, whose brokerage primarily deals with commercial real estate, argued that there's a plethora of vacant office buildings remaining in the Pandy. Okay, what is it?
Okay, and it goes along with Ron's. You want to read Ron's comment real quick?
Yeah, we'll get Ron. Ron Bruno said, where I see a sweet spot currently are baby boomer empty nesters that are sitting on a ton of equity that can put a lot of money down and get a small mortgage versus 20% down.
Okay, so when
rates come down, they are rebalancing their portfolio and cash out.
Absolutely. So this is the silver tsunami that I've been predicting for years.
It's finally here, everyone.
It's finally here. Silver tsunami. So we take that, right? We give them he's all, hey, I'm a baby boomer. So we take that and we give them the incentive. And then we take all of these vacant malls and all of these vacant office spaces, and we turn them into little communities, little compounds.
This is exactly what I said Sunday to Christina. I was like,
live work home compounds where it's not moving you into an old folks home. It's live work. It's because there's a you can call it a compound. There's a place. Do you guys have leisure worlds anywhere near you? You know what a leisure world is?
Nope.
This place is fantastic. Now you got to be 55 to move in there. So I'm only 5 years away. But there's a full golf course. There's walking trails. There's so many things. If we just took all this and made communities for this, they still stay alive. They still stay vibrant. They still stay relevant. They're still working. They're still feeling a purpose. Because how many times do you hear about someone retires and then they kind of give up on life and they just dip straight down for the next 5 years until they unfortunately pass away. This is little old age communities. There you go. I think I've solved it. I've finally solved it. There you go.
Howard says, OMG, I'm 65. I should have moved to Leisure World 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's an amazing place. It's fantastic.
Little old age communities, he calls it. Yeah. So the theory with this person is kind of similar to that, but he's kind of targeting the urban infill millennial that's willing to go into a more densely populated area. Yeah. And it's the whole, he called it the whole work play thing, just like you said, where they can work and live in those areas near where their office is, near where the downtown is, where things are happening. Basically like where a condo would be, except you take an office space and you turn it into that type of building. One of the pundits, one of the talking heads on this show said, well, what about malls? And they said, for years, people have been saying this about malls and it doesn't seem viable because nobody has done it. Is the same thing going to happen with your idea with these office buildings? And he said something really interesting. He said, I think that happened with malls because they're not in the same type of place. They're kind of out on their own.
A little bit, yeah.
In a lot of markets, malls are kind of in weird areas because they take up so much space and there's not really the work play live benefit that there would be if they were in an office building in a downtown area. So I think he's on to something there. I think it's a more viable option to use office space and convert that to living than it is to use a mall, because also malls in the middle of them have these giant open areas that have to be completely redone. So there's also a cost basis of the full remodel and what it would take to make one of those things. But I think it was, I think Christina said converting the malls into retirement homes made sense because the mall walkers are already there going around and around.
Yeah. Take some of that energy.
Yeah, take some of that energy and just put you there. So I thought that was I thought he made a really good point about why it's more viable for vacant office space that has been vacated due to the pandy, and possibly less viable for the mall. Did somebody make a comment on that? I thought I heard somebody talk about it.
Yeah, Clubhouse.
That was me.
Oh, what's up,
you
Ron?
guys here?
Yeah, man. Good to see you too.
Hey, absolutely. So I'll share a quick story. So I did a video series on this. So one of my agents, they did a quick study, and they said in a town called Southlake, which is it's a suburb outside of DFW, lots of families, great schools, that type of thing, 5,000 square feet. So he did a study, and there are 142 communities in Southlake, of which 20 have 100 or more homes. So he did this study in 2019 to 2022. There was an overall average appreciation of 75% in that community, in those 20 communities. So what's amazing is the national average is less than 40, right? So somehow Southlake just is appreciated more than anywhere else. So from that study, we looked at it and said, wait a second, so these people are sitting on a ton of equity. And the reason why they moved into those particular properties, for the kids and the school systems and big homes and all of those, may not be the reason why they would want to stay in that home for the next 20 years. If, the kids are grown in school, that type of thing. So, I was talking to my dad about it, and he's like, well, where will they go? So with another, series where it's up and coming, but basically it's like, okay, so all those people, they're spending tons of money on utilities and lawn maintenance and all of these things, and those
gas right now,
right? So you're spending $800 to pay for your air conditioning versus downsizing or right sizing into something where it's a little bit more energy efficient. So there's an upcoming series that I've got where we go out and we actually show where baby boomers can live and have a really great life, right? In a smaller footprint. So that's just one of those things that I see as a sweet spot in 2023 and right now, because they can get the concessions, they can get a smaller mortgage, and then when rates come down and inventory spikes back up because rates are down, they go ahead, they refi and they cash out, right? So that's where I see a sweet spot right now.
Interesting. I like this. It's trying to find inventory solutions in a myriad of ways.
Which it doesn't have to be, all right, well, we're gonna keep raising rates until something happens. There's so many different options you could have. Andy Rose on Clubhouse had a good comment. If you just put a craft brewery in the mall, all the millennials and the Zers are gonna be there.
No, I think you have to paint some wings on one of the walls. That's
really put wings up
there. So a craft brewery with some wings on the walls.
Yeah,
then they're all going to show up.
Some social media photo ops. If you put those up, paint them on the walls, and put a craft brewery in, dude, done.
Well, one of the problems you can imagine with all this inventory crisis is that it doesn't seem like anybody is able to sell a damn. Keller Williams sets a goal. This is quite the goal. When you see a goal like this, it's really aspirational, something you can get behind as a real estate agent.
I'm a big
and the goal is someone has to sell a damn house.
It's so good. And I just picture, I don't know who said this, but I picture Gary. Just, someone sell a damn house.
It sounds like what somebody would say in a small mom and pop operation in a little town that they haven't had any sales in a while. It sounds exactly like somebody would say in that type of situation.
Yeah.
So
I don't
Keller
know,
Williams
just somebody
president.
sell a damn house.
Yeah, exactly. Keller Williams president Mark King ended 2021 with a lot of good hope for good reason. The Austin-based franchisor had logged a banner year, buoyed by unimaginable tailwinds. The company had worked out its issues with tech. Well, I mean, that's a company line. And taking advantage of a robust jobs market, strengthening its leadership lineup. He said, quote, I look at Keller Williams as the Disneyland for the real estate entrepreneur, where you can create anything in a tightly controlled community with leadership going underground and popping. Wait, maybe we shouldn't extend that all the way. That's what he told Inman in December of 2021. We have a lot of great worthy rivals. However, rising mortgage rates, inflation, and recession fears quickly turned the market upside down in 2022, forcing the industry's largest players to begin preparing for a market shift unlike any other. I like how this is written in Inman. It's story based. The franchisor also continued to bat off years-long speculation surrounding an initial public offering and found itself amidst two headline-making lawsuits. Y'all might remember that. CEO Mark Realis attempted to move to the rival eXp Realty, and another having far-reaching consequences of the connection between buyers and sellers. Wasn't there another one about some kind of assault or something? So maybe three.
There was a bunch. Yeah. Wait.
So going into 2023, King is still confident in Keller Williams' path as the marketplace has a few more bumps, potholes, U-turns, he says.
But they have the largest agent count in the country. They're all selling houses, right?
He said, as we embrace our 40th year in business, we are truly reigniting a culture of supporting entrepreneurs. Test of agility. Yeah, I want to get to the quote. When times are good, understand at some point they'll get tougher, Gary Keller said.
Oof.
I mean, very insightful. Yeah. And when times are tougher, at some point they'll get good. That's just the way the world works.
When things are bad, they're gonna get better. When they're better, they're gonna get good. I mean, good thing he's the CEO that y'all are following. Oof.
I mean, I'm not gonna. However, Keller acknowledged that with all of this experience, 2022 was a difficult year to get a grip on. After 2 years of booming buyer demand, home price growth, and record home sales buoyed by record low mortgage rates, the market was taking a turn that yielded mixed results. He said, I would say it's the most confusing market I've ever seen in my entire 40 plus years in our industry. It's confusing, and it's only confusing because you have mixed signals. Normally, you would expect to see all the signals to aim in one direction. And that's not what's happening. While we are less pleased to report that our sales volume is down by a low single-digit percentage, there's an immense opportunity in this market for our agents. Okay. So, there it was. I really wanted to get to that part. I found that. Okay. Especially over the past few years, but recently in the last decade, this industry has been frothy. It has taken its eye off the fiduciary at the center of the transaction, helping consumers have a better experience and making smarter decisions. All kinds have different models. All kinds have different models have been tested. I think it means all kinds of different models have been tested. Yeah. But really, at the end of the day, I go back to a quote from a class I taught in Keller Williams Market Center. Quote, someone has to sell a damn house. It's what we do far better than anyone else. It's our core training.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm not going to help you get there. I'm not going to do any of that. But I'm going to tell you, somebody has to sell a damn house.
Somebody has to sell a damn house. Inspiration at its finest. I don't know. I'm not, that doesn't really do it for me. Neon cursive sign.
Yeah, the millennials like the neon cursive.
Oh yeah. You got to have a neon cursive sign to attract the millennials.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one. It just says real estate back there.
So there, the transaction volume, new listings, and projected closings, written contract volume, and sales volume declined % year over year for Keller Williams in interesting. I think Keller Williams is going to make it. I'm not too worried about Keller Williams. I think
they'll be all right.
Yeah, they moved some houses. They moved.
You want to know who I worry about, Ray?
Well, I'm just saying that these guys seem to be losing billions and billions of dollars. But who are you worried about, Dan?
I worry about 3 of them specifically. Nice.
You didn't time it.
That was good.
Let's just focus on the first one. Compass.
Yeah.
Compass launches a 3rd round of layoffs as job cuts extend 2023. So Compass is laying off more staff as brokers look to further cut costs in the slowing housing market. CEO Robert Rifkin sent out an email to the staff Thursday morning informing them of the latest employee reduction. This is not good, man.
Does it say what part of there? Is it just more technology people, more staffers, more kind of back end people?
They claim difficult economic times for the reason expected to spend 10 and 12 million on severance related to the layoffs. Over 1,500 highly experienced product engineering professionals. Last year, Compass said it had 1,500 highly experienced product engineering professionals. This was prior to its first of 3 rounds of layoffs. In June, the company let go of 450. Yeah. The brokerage's tech platforms are another key part of its recruitment pitch. So efficiency is a big deal. You can build anything these days if you have the money and if you have the number of people. But if you can get more efficiency out of one person, then you can function much better. And those companies that don't have efficiency baked into their core principles are going to have a real hard time in the market moving forward to be able to provide agents with a better deal while also continuing to support them efficiently. It doesn't give a number. They have 13,314 agents during the 3rd quarter. It has an $8 billion valuation, but it doesn't give the number of support staff that it's letting go. I'm assuming it's support staff. I mean,
it has to be. I mean, they're not cutting teams, are they?
They could fire a big executive and save some money, but I don't see.
Yeah, they could save a couple $1 million.
Yeah, they saw its market cap fall $1 billion. Stock price plummet. It's sitting in $2.36 a share after trading at $20.15 a share during its first day on the market. Wow. Let's see. In November, they were 35.4% below what they were the previous year.
Oof.
Yeah. It doesn't really say. It doesn't say how many. Okay. But to be fair, in this market, economic turmoil, Compass is definitely not the only. Oh, it's so close. Compass is definitely not the only one with a round of layoffs anywhere. Asterisk lays off more workers and announces the end of RealSure iBuyer. So the company has slashed its workforce by 11%. The moves come following months of the housing market declines. Anywhere's massive parent company for brands like Coldwell Banker, Century 21. What are the others? Sotheby's, Berkshire Hathaway. Is that correct? I can't remember.
I don't know who they own. I think they changed. And have there already been any of those stories where they're not only laying off, but they're just cutting brands?
No, I haven't seen them cut any brands. They said the filing was described as a meaningful reduction in Anywhere's workforce.
Meaningful reduction.
Yeah.
There's a bigger part to
June,
this, though.
In June, Anywhere has reduced its workforce by 11%. Quote, this is from Ryan Schneider. I realize the difficulty these actions have on the affected individuals. I do not take the decisions involving our people lightly. Given the changing market, these products are not delivering the same value to customers. Talking about RealSure, the iBuying thing.
Have we ever talked about that? I didn't even know.
Yeah, we talked about it when they launched it, but they really didn't focus on it, and it wasn't a key part. They didn't do a lot of announcements about it.
So it's not
other than, hey, we have an iBuyer too. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, It's like what we were saying. Well, yeah, we have one too. You just email me, and I got you.
The Be More offers, online
Be
offers.
More bids.
Be More bids, online offers. Just email us your bid.
Yeah, it's one. It's literally one button.
Their priorities are now growing our quote high octane franchise business in our luxury leadership position.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. There will be opportunities to take share from the competition. I remain committed to doing everything to support our agents and the franchise partners. And most importantly, you. I guess that was his letter to his people.
The consumer. Don't forget the consumer.
Don't forget the consumer. All right. So we have Keller Williams saying somebody has to sell a damn house. We have Compass shuttering business because apparently people aren't selling houses at Compass and Anywhere. No, I'm just kidding. Of course they are. But these are what the problem is there is a lack of leadership in foreshadowing or looking forward and saying, okay, the market's about to turn.
Right.
As the market turns, we need to prepare our workforce ahead of time. We need to bake in more efficiencies ahead of time. So it's really not the fault of any of the agents there. It is genuinely the fault of leadership and how they are structuring their company to go through a down time. And especially if you're publicly traded, whenever you lay people off, your stock price goes up because it's assumed that you're going to have additional efficiency moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, for those agents that were selling houses, they were doing their job. And, hey, maybe it's a tougher economy. Maybe they sold 30% less than the previous year. It wasn't great. The hard part for them is going to be if some of these slashes on the corporate level affect their service level as an agent. If they're no longer to do for their clients what they were doing for their clients because now their company doesn't support them in the same way, that's going to raise a lot of questions. And then it's going to create this downward spiral and this downward trajectory in these companies. So hopefully they've gotten ahead of it by cutting more than they think they need and implementing efficiencies so they can still serve their agents.
Well, that's going to be the big. That's why I always ask about who are they cutting? Is it the support staff? Is the admin staff? Because that's what the agents need. I always kind of describe us agents as we're the rock star. We're the singer in the band. Like we're the ones out there doing all the stuff. And then the support staff is back, the ones that, once we get that lead, once we get that listing, once we get that buyer into escrow, that stuff, I'm going to go back and do my rock star stuff. All that admin stuff has to be handled for me. But if they're cutting those things and those support things and the contactualities and the mojo dialers and the people who make actual calls for you to get you your leads, that's going to really hurt them. And I always wonder, it's been something I've wondered since pretty much day one of the Rona, where, when things started going crazy, about a month or two in, how do you not see that, this is a historically abnormal market that we're in? How do you not start planning at that time? Like all those companies that, they were doing thousands of refis a day, those big companies, and they're like, oh my God, the refis went away. We're going to have to lay off. We're so sorry. How did they not predict that? It's the same thing as that everything that led up to the crash in 2008. Like, no, dude, everything's going to always go up forever. Of course, anyone can have a loan. I bought my dog a house. Like, I don't understand how you don't get ahead of this as it's happening. And then if it doesn't happen, it's kind of like, the whole under promise, over deliver thing. Like, let's just kind of plan for this. And then we're ready when it happens. And then we have to lay off instead of where you just said, Ray, where, okay, now they have to lay off more.
Yeah. Get ahead of it. They have to get ahead of it.
They needed to, but the efficiency is still there behind the scenes, hopefully.
And some of you may be thinking like, well, how could they possibly have known the market was going to do this? One way is to watch our show every week, because we definitely, sans the prediction special where we were a little off. We were a little off on what was happening with the interest rate. Other than that, we got pretty much everything on the nose. Especially what the turns were this year. You remember that whole section where I said, here's what's going to happen next year. Yeah. It was just point after point after point after point.
It was like 7 in a row, I think it was.
Yeah. And it isn't rocket science and it isn't guessing. It's basic economics. When you remove emotion. When you remove the thing in your head that you want to happen, when you
have
take
to
out
be
the
right.
thing in your head that you're like, oh, if I tell shareholders that, then it's going to negatively impact us. If you remove that notion and then just honestly prepare for what's happening and do that well, then you're going to get a leg up on your competition.
And then you don't have to have motivational speeches like sell a damn house. Someone sell a damn house.
Speaking of leg up on competition, there are companies that aren't taking market share quite as fast as they used to. So for our last company that we're going to feature, EXP founder Glenn Sanford speaks out about the lull with agent count growth. Now, last year we talked a little bit about EXP. This year they're back in the news. They're acknowledging that the company experienced a lull in its agent count growth because it said the market downturn in 2022 was a factor. Returning to the and a factor in him returning to the helm of the business. He made.
What if there was other companies out there that do it better, that have their similar market strategy or similar profitability plan, but they just do it a little better? What if that's a thing?
He didn't reference that as a possibility. Okay. No.
Okay.
He said in an interview earlier this month with Inman, Sanford said EXP Realty currently has 86,000 agents. That number represents years of rapid growth and up from 78,196 agents at the end of the first quarter.
So now I'm gonna. There's a company called. Sorry, go on with the however. Sorry.
It is well short of Sanford's projection from April 2022, when he estimated the company would end the year with 100,000 agents. So they're
remember we covered
about
that. They predicted they were going to be
1,000 agents short of that goal.
Yeah.
Sanford weighed in on recent executive shakeup that saw him to return to the CEO position, which we talked about last week. Let's see. He said, given that I am founder, I'm uniquely positioned to contribute to sell that story in a very unique and interesting way that people appreciate a bit more than someone who is just hired into the role of the CEO. Okay.
I mean,
he asked if the market shift was also a factor, and he said, for sure. I think if the market was continuing to be really robust, things would be different.
I'd have to disagree, though.
If it was going well and things were good, things would be different, right? So
yeah, it's the same thing as Keller or Gary was saying. Gary Keller saying, yeah, dude, when things are bad, they're gonna eventually go good again. I mean, but I have to disagree, though. When you have a certain model, because I remember I was part of
the
this
revenue share model.
Yeah, I was part of this frenzy and remember where EXP came from. They came from Keller Williams. They just did the model better, the rev share model better. But I was part of that.
They do rev share. Keller Williams does profit share.
Profit share, yeah.
Keller Williams will give money to its agents after they pay their expenses.
If
they hire a consultant, if they hire a consultant that also happens to be related to them or their daughter-in-law, there's
no nepotism or anything. But yeah, it's always the thing you miss about Keller Williams that they don't talk about is if the branch is profitable, then you get paid. Okay.
Then you get paid.
But I digress.
Now, rev share is top line. So that's the money that comes in. Rev share is shared among those agents at EXP.
So now when I remember when they were the shiny new toy and it was like they were blowing up, they were exploding and it was exciting. Yeah. But you would think, because the exciting thing was then is all you got to do is recruit a few agents and then they're in your downline. And then now you essentially profit off them, any transactions they do, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you have a strong enough model built, even in a down market, you should still be able to grow, in my opinion, because there might be another company out there that's taken roughly 8,000 to 11,000 agents from maybe EXP would have gotten those agents.
Maybe there is another company out there with interest in rev share. They have a similar model and maybe different culture. I think, it's funny. Obviously, Dan's talking about Real. I took my brokerage to Real. We went to Real but we didn't go because of profit sharing. We didn't go because of downlines. We went because of culture. And I think across the board, one of the things that people love about Compass is the culture, but they also love a high-end look and brand.
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people talking about Anywhere's culture, because those cultures are broken up into the subgroups of each franchise or each brand. So Century 21 has a culture, and Cole Banker has a culture, and but even within that brand,
There's also cultures at the franchise level that I think a lot of people are paying attention to. And so someone may stay at their office forever because they're one of the best Century 21 offices in the world and they love their culture.
Yeah.
And I think in a down economy, people aren't necessarily looking just to save money. They're looking for a culture that'll help them grow.
They want to feel supported is what they want.
Yeah. And it's not support as in they have a staffer in a cubicle somewhere that's going to help them manage the transaction.
Right.
It's support among their peers and the culture. And so I think you're going to see a lot of culture wars happening and less about the dollar wars. I think those companies are going to be real. It's going to be KW, Compass. You may have some brands within Anywhere that get involved in it. It's going to be an EXP, but it's going to be a big culture thing and far less revenue thing, in my opinion. Because I think that's why people, you will have someone who will join a brokerage, pay way more money than they should to that brokerage, and stay there for a long time because they love that culture.
They like the vibe.
Who saves a bunch of money and is paying like very little money, and they won't stay there because they can't stand the culture. Yeah. And I think you will see that as a major player and a major factor. So there's a really good book out there. If you guys haven't read the book Culture Code, strongly recommend it. It's a very good book about all this building and stuff. And if you listen to me and you go out and get that book, you wouldn't be the person listening to me. It appears that the House Republicans also listen to us. They listened to the show last week. If you recall last week, we were talking a lot about taxes. And one of the things that we said is like, hey man, the best way to do this is actually with a consumption tax. Well, House Republicans will now vote on abolishing the IRS and replacing the national income tax with a consumption tax after voting to strip the agency of Biden back $72 billion in funds for 87,000 new IRS staff. So we thought this was really funny. Somebody posted it in the contributors chat and they were like, hey, they watched the show. Ray was right. And it was definitely a tenfold moment that we had yesterday. But I thought that was really interesting that they're actually putting this out there and saying, well, maybe the best way to tax people is a consumption-based tax and not an income-based tax. So you only get taxed when you spend the money. So those who have the most and spend the most money will get taxed more. I think that's interesting.
And do you remember the story from 4 or 5 months ago about actual IRS agents not paying their own taxes?
No.
There was a report. I remember seeing this somewhere, and it's a full-on meme. It's a meme in the waiting. 1,250 employees of the IRS were not paying their own taxes. I mean, if that doesn't say abolish it,
the whole thing's messed up. All right, you owe us money. How much do I owe you? Well, you tell us how much you owe you.
Okay.
Well, this
and
is
then
how
I
much
tell you. Here, wait, Ray.
Nope,
let's
that's
role play.
Not right.
Let's role play. Okay. Ready? You're the IRS. Hey,
right.
I made
Dan,
$100
so you
grand
made some money last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. You owe some money for that.
Okay. How much?
Well, you have to tell us how much you owe.
Okay. $8 grand. How's that sound?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
Try again. Here's some fines because you're paying late now.
Oh, dang. Okay. Higher, lower? Where am I at? Can I get some hints?
We can't tell you that.
Okay. Well, 12 grand. That's 12% of what I made. That's pretty good, right?
It's not correct. I tell you what, we're going to send a helper to you, and they will look at all of your purchases over the last year, and you have to give them everything. We call them
like
auditors.
I'm getting audited, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
It's a little help that the IRS likes to send to help you calculate this for you. They're going to sit there with you and do it. And if you don't pay what you owe at that point, you will go to prison.
Oh, so I have to, I live in a free country and I have to give you money or I go to jail.
Correct.
Huh.
And you have to tell me how much you owe me.
Okay. So going back to this auditor, are they going to tell me how much I owe?
They will help you calculate that and then tell you exactly how much you owe. Yep.
Okay. And is that like, we handled this year. We're good. But now moving forward, is it always going to be the same? Can I just next year, I'll calculate the same thing. If I make 100 grand a year next year as well, it's just easy. It's that easy, right?
No. You have to read all the laws. We're going to be changing a lot of the laws between now and next year, and you'll have to be up to date on all those new laws.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's about, there you go. That sums up America.
Oh man. And also I just wanted to update people. It appears that we featured a celebrity on our show without even intentionally trying to feature a celebrity. Be a lot of delays like that.
We use that term loosely on celebrity, by the way.
I just think it was interesting because we featured this lawsuit. Do you remember when we talked about the situation in which there was this company that said, hey, if you use us to sell your house, we'll give you $1,000, $700 or whatever it was.
A lifetime contract.
And then, it was a 40-year agreement to do this. And it was basically kind of a sham that if you were to sell it without them, then you would owe them money, even if you didn't use them.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like the purveyor of this was actually a Big Brother contestant. And we had no idea. Somebody brought this to us in the contributor chat, and we're like, hey, look at that. And so I didn't even know who this person was. I don't watch Big Brother or anything like that, but I watched this little YouTube video on the article on TMZ, and clearly she is the heel to the season, which it also says there too.
Yeah.
But she is part of, what was it, MV Realty? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
MV Realties. And they had that phone sales pitch that we talked about, in which they were misleading. It says, the article says, the pitch misleads homeowners by stating there's no risk or no cost to them unless they sell. He says that his office has heard from a bunch of homeowners claiming that they were ripped off. Well, that office was Miss Amanda Zachman. She went by Zuckerman on the show. So yeah, if you are Big Brother fans and real estate agents, this is an interesting thing to talk about. So
where art imitates life, I guess.
I guess so. A weird one. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. Dan, as we go, why don't you tell people where they can find you, man?
I can't point to it.
You can't point to it today. I think, let me go into the settings.
Let's see if we can do it.
And say show participant.
There you go. Oh, that looks good. This is a clean look. Yeah. I've enjoyed this today. It's right there. D Lettergrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. And I have a new video coming out, and Ray had a great idea because it is a long form video. It'll be about 10, 12 minutes. Ray had a fantastic idea to break down into individual chunks. And I'll be doing that on my Instagram, but go ahead and follow me over there on the Instagram. Yeah. And Ray, where can they find you?
You can find me at Ray Zorback. That's RayZorback. And we're going to, again, put some end screens. So if you guys are looking, there's probably one that YouTube thinks you're interested in over here. There's also a subscribe button right down there. So click that and subscribe to the show if you're not already. And then there's another one on the screen that YouTube thinks you'll like. So thank you guys for watching the show. And thanks for bearing with us a little bit today as we test Restream.io. I thought it was pretty good. It's got a little bit of delays, a little bit of work that we need to put into it, but it's good. So thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Love y'all. Go check on your friends.